Hello, welcome to lesson 2 under the Java Basics under the Java course. In this lesson, we're going to look at the print method and the println method as well as the Java API. In our first program, we talked about the basic parts of a Java program. Now, in this lesson, we are going to look at specifically the print and the println method. We did meet these two methods in our first lesson where we printed something onto the console, but in this lesson we're going to look at it very well. So first, let's try to talk a little bit about the print and the println method. And one thing I want to tell you is that, as I did say in our first lesson, the print and println method are used to display test output. And one thing that you have to realize is that these are pre-written methods. The print is a method, and when we say method in Java, it's just a body of code that performs a specific function. So that body of code has been given a name. All right, so we have a body of code, and what it does is that whatever you pass to it, it prints it out for you to see onto the console, and we call it method, or we call it function. I'm talking about the print method and that of the println method. Now these methods are already written, so they are pre-written methods. You don't have to write them yourself, and that is why if I want to print anything, I just have to type print. But I cannot just type print like that. As you saw in the first lesson, we had to type system.out.println or system.out.print if we want to use the print method. So all these are pre-written methods. Now when we talk about API is short for application programming interface, and this is the most important part of the Java programming language, or any programming language for that matter. Let us try to understand what we mean by the API. Now, one thing you have to realize first here is that the system is found in their API. The system is found in the Java API. So the system is a class in the Java API, the out is an object in the Java API, and the print is a method in the Java API. So let's say that the API consists of pre-written classes and methods. And how can we understand this? Let us take this analogy. Let's use mathematics first. In your math class, particularly geometry, your teacher talked to you or taught you about something called the Pythagoras theorem, right? And your teacher probably said that
for a right angle triangle, the square of the hypotenuse is equal to the sum of the squares of the other two sides.
And your teacher taught you that anytime that you meet or you see a right angle triangle and you want to calculate for one of its lengths, you can employ this Pythagoras theorem, right? Why? Your teacher did not want you to reinvent the wheel, because Pythagoras was a mathematician who lived in the past, and this guy brought a theorem that anybody could enjoy. And today mathematicians are using this theorem to solve problems that deal with right angle triangle. In the same vein, your teacher taught you that the area of a triangle is half base times vertical height. You did not have to think about how you could find the area of a triangle. You were given a formula, so you were given a method. Just like Java is giving us methods, creators of the Java programming language saw that this is something we are going to do. Any program that you create has to produce something for people to see. So why don't we create these methods there, so that if the programmer was to print something to the screen for the user to see, there is no need for him to write a bunch of code again. So they wrote a lot of code and they called it print. Then they wrote another one, they called it println. All right, so these two methods are part of the methods that are used to print something or text to the screen, and they are all part of what we call the Java API, or they are in the API. Let us also use this analogy here. Now I'm speaking English, right? I'm using words, you call it vocabulary. I didn't create these words. These words were coined or created some years ago by some English folks, and today I'm using it. I'm just stringing the words together to make sense. And these words are found in what you call dictionary. So if I want to find any English word, I just have to go into the dictionary. You can see it that way. The API is just a Java dictionary. So if I need to create any program, I just take the Java dictionary, which is called the API, and I will see a word or a method like print, a method like println, and I just have to use it. Let me run this program that is from our last lesson, and it prints the square of 10 is 100. I did talk about this, but let's talk about it again. Right, I'll start with print here. The method here, print, is the method that is actually doing the work here. That is, it is printing this. But the question is, why didn't I just type print? When I type print like it print this, you can see that it has been aligned with it has been underlined with a red line here, and it says that the method print is undefined for the type basic pro. It is undefined. The compiler is telling me that It is undefined. It cannot identify this method. I'm telling it, find it from the dictionary, find it from the Java API, and it is telling me, no, I cannot find it there. There is no print there. If you are familiar with a programming language like Python, you just type print and Python will understand it because of how it has been arranged. But with Java, the print is not on its own. The print is found somewhere. The print method is found in a class. We call it the print stream class. And this print stream class, within it we have, from the print stream class, we have an object we call out. In Java, we have classes, and to use the class, you have to create an object or instance of the class, as we do say. And this object that we call out, it contains methods that you want to use to print something to the console, or you want to use it for test output. I will tell the compiler that, okay, you are saying that the method print is not defined. Yes, you cannot find it simply because I've not shown you where the method print is. Just as when you are looking up something in the dictionary, you have to be very careful. You take a very big dictionary and you want to find a word, and you have to use the characters very well. You have to check them very well alphabetically before you can find it. So I will tell the compiler, all right, sorry. So I'll tell it that it is found in the object called out. Then it will leave the print method and then ask me out. Out cannot be resolved. I cannot find out. So where is the out? So the compiler is now getting a little bit cool with me. So the print method is not now on the line, and it now comes to the out. So where is the out? I cannot still find it in the dictionary, and I'll tell the compiler again, oh sorry, the object out2 is found in a class, a bigger class. We call it system. So the moment I do that, and it says, oh cool, you should have said this earlier. Now I can find it. So print is in out and out is in system. So the compiler will go and look up for print for me, and when I execute it now, it doesn't complain because it can look up for it very well. So prints or println method, that is the methods we use to print, they are located in an object that is called out, and this out object was created from a class called printstream. So that is why when I put on it, we see printstream and java.lang.system.out, and system is a class. It is a pre-written class, and it is used to perform system level operations in Java. So out is also located in system. Actually, out is a field in system, and when an instance of a class is made a field of another class, we call it aggregation, and we'll be talking about it in one of the lessons in just Java course, so you don't have to worry about this. So now let us try to know the differences between print and the println method. I'm gonna change this and I'll put something here, but one thing you have to also look at here is that whatever I'm printing to the console, I'm putting it into double quotation marks because that makes it a string. All right, but the println method can actually print strings. It can print any data type. Of course, we have used it to print an int data type, so it can print any data type, and we'll be talking about that when we get to the data types. This is my first program as we did in the first lesson. So let me click on this, and I see this is my first program here. All right, so what is actually happening here is that after printing this, the cursor was moved to the next line, but because I didn't add anything here, you are not seeing it here. To better understand the difference between the print and the print line, I'm going to create another program, and first I'm going to, in the same package, I'm going to create another program for the print method. And so I'll go to class in the same package, and this time I'm going to call it the print demo. So I essentially want to mean that I'm going to demonstrate how the print method is used. Now, one thing that you have to also notice is that I begin my class names with capital letters, right? There is a convention in Java. The class names are called identifiers, and it is a convention in Java to begin class names with capital letters and begin method names with small letters, right? It's just a convention that is used here, and you can see that right after that here, I began this with a capital letter too, but this was unnecessary. I could have made it small letter, but for readability sake, I made it a capital letter so that I could easily know that I have just juxtaposed two words, that is print and demo. But of course, you cannot leave a space character between them. If I do that, look at what Eclipse is telling me. It's telling me that type name is not valid. The type name print demo is not a valid identifier because you cannot leave space character between classes here. And of course, I want my class to be public. We talked about this in the first lesson. It means that my class is available to code outside my package. Leave this ticked and take the public static void main so that Java will develop the code for you. Sorry, the Eclipse will create the code for you here. I'll click on finish, and I'll have code stop. That is just a comment, so let me take it off here. You can see double forward slash that I talked about. So it is an auto generated method stop. As you see, that's what Eclipse is telling me. Let me put it off here. As you see this, normally I want my opening braces to come down, so let me use this way. If I had left it that way, that wouldn't have been a problem. We'll be talking about these things when we get along to other lessons where we look at how, the programming style that we have to use here. But now I want to maintain it this way so that I can be referring to the individual lines. So I'll type system dot out dot print, and I'll say thank. Okay, I'll say thank, and I'll go to the next line, and I'll type again system dot out dot print, and I write u. But is this not time consuming? I'm typing everything system dot out dot print. Now that is Eclipse is an integrated development environment, and what it does good is that it helps you to code very faster. So let me take all of this out. If I want to type system dot out dot print, normally .println in a way, I just have to type s out, and Eclipse will do that for me, but it will bring print line, but I'll change it to print in a way. So Eclipse types the whole of this for me. I just need a print here, and let me put something in. So I'll say thank, and then let me copy this so that it's going to be a little bit faster here. So thank, and say you. So let me put you here. Thank you. For learning at let me go to the next line. villagecoder.com. Then let me put the last one here, always. All right, so let me put a full stop here. Okay, so thank you for learning at Village Coder always. I want you to take note of these things. Now, if you look at it, I call the print method how many times? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I call it 5 times. Look at the code here. I call the print method 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But unfortunately, when I click on execute, when I run this program, I'll get only one line of code. Look at it. Run. Thank you for learning at villagecoder.com always. You see, instead of giving me 4, is it 5? Yeah, 5 lines. I had just one line of code. Thank you for learning at villagecoder.com always. Why? The reason is very simple. The reason is that anytime you call the print method, you call the method to print. You don't tell it anything, because that is what the print method does. It just prints something to the console, or it prints something for you to see. So, and I left a space bar here, right? So immediately the print method will print all these characters and print the space bar too. And when it does that, it will leave the cursor here. So the cursor will be blinking here. So you can see I have thank, and the space bar is here, you. So the cursor was here, blinking here. So the next print method is going to continue from where the cursor was. So the cursor was here when this second method executed. So this u will follow up. The main difference is that when the print method prints something to the output, it leaves the cursor there. What a print method does is that it prints. It doesn't do anything with the cursor. The cursor will be left here, and the second one, it prints u. I had a space here, or a white space here, so the cursor will still be left here. So the next one will also continue for learning arts, and there is a white space here, and the cursor will still be left there. And the next one will go on to villagecoder.com, and there will be a space here, and the cursor will still be left there. And the next one will go to always. So here I could have just closed up the space because it was not necessary anymore. I wasn't going to print anything here, so I could have just done this. Everything would have been okay. That is the first thing I wanted to watch here. I had 5 statements. I called the print method 5 times, but it gave me 1 line, simply because anytime the print method executes, the cursor is left on the same line. So it's pretty much important that we pay attention here. So if I wanted the cursor cursor to move to the next line and print exactly and give me exactly what I see here, I should have called the print line method. Let's see this print line method here. So what it will do is that it will print and go to the next line. So I'm changing all the print methods to print line, okay, print line, and then print line. The last one I can leave it at print because that's the last one. It means that when it prints this, it will not do anything. So it can decide to leave the cursor on the same line and there will be no problem. But let me make all of them print line. Okay, so when I do this, you are going to see exactly as you see here. You are going to see thank on the first line, you on the second line. I've left some, gaps here. I can close these white spaces because they are not needed anymore, but I can leave them there because you are not going to see them anyway. So look at this here. So exactly what I see here, I now see thank you for learning at villagecoder.com always, because I'm telling the cursor to move to the next line. Because when you call the print line method, what it does is that it prints thank and the white space and it moves the cursor to the next line. It prints you and the white space and moves the cursor to the next line. It prints for learning that in the white space and moves the cursor to the next line. Village.com and white space and moves the cursor to the next line. Then always, and it moves the cursor to the next line. So that is the difference between the print and the print line method. Whereas the print method prints and leaves the cursor on the same line, the print line method prints and moves the cursor to the next line. Using the print method, you have to be very careful, and let us look at that. There is a common error that most beginners make when they are using the print method, and then it's the next thing I want us to look at. So with this, I'm going to create another program, and this time around I'm calling it no space. That is, when beginners are using the print method, the mistake that they do is that at times they forget to leave white space, because the print method prints and leave the cursor on the same line. You have to be very careful with where you have to insert the white space. So let me say I'm calling the class no space here so that it will be pretty simple for you to identify it. And there is one thing, it is a good practice, when you are programming, the names that you give to your classes have to identify them. That is why we call them identifiers. So when you see no space, then actually it kind of gives you some information about what I'm trying to say, that I'm talking about a program where I did not leave a space. All right, so let me bring the public static void main. Okay, so Eclipse is still doing the good job for me, giving me the stop here, and this time around I'll leave the braces where they are and it is going to work fine for me. So this time around, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave it this way because I can put them on the same line. So I'm going to call the print method. So system.out.print, I'll say the print method. So let me go to the next line. The print method leaves the cursor on the same line. So let me add this one too, on the same, and let me add the last one. Let me say line. Okay, let me put a full stop here. All right, so look at this. There's going to be a problem here. So let me run this program and I'll talk about this here. I'm going to have the whole thing on one line because of course the print method prints it and leaves it on the same line. But look at this here, the print method and the print method, between the method and the leaves there is no space here. Look at this. The two words have been jammed together, or they have been juxtaposed, but this is not what I intended. I wanted a space, a white space, to be left here. So using the print method, you have to be very careful. The first statement and the second one, the method and the leaves here, there is no space between them, because after executing this, the cursor was here. Then the second print method called this and the leaves continued from here. So when it got to the cursor here, the cursor was left right here. After this word cursor, the cursor was left here. And the third one also called this or executed, and on continued. So you can see that the cursor and the on two are juxtaposed or jammed together here. So after the third call, the cursor was still here, and the fourth one also executed and called line, and the line two continued here. So you can see same line also juxtaposed or jammed together here. And that is why when you're using the print method, you have to leave white space. So there is a way around it. Let us try to remedy this problem, and I'll create another program here. So in the same package, I'll say new, I'll say class, and this time around I'm calling the class no space remedy. So I'm remedying the no space class that I created. So finish. Okay, and because I'm remedying it, you can see it here. This was the former program and there's the new one. So I'm not going to type the whole thing again. All that I'm going to do is that I'm going to copy it from here. I'm copying only this, and then I'll put it here. Okay, so I'm going to remedy this problem. So to do that, I'll insert white space. So here, the print method, right after it, I'll press on the space bar and I'll leave a space. So there will be a white space between this and the second statement. So when it ends also here, I'll leave another space bar so that between this and this, there will be a white space. And when it also ends here, I'll leave a space bar. Now, when I do this and I run it again, the print method leaves the cursor on the same line, and that is very cool. Now, where you leave the white space depends on what you want to do. I could have closed this white space and open it here, all right, so that between here and there'll still be a white space. And I could have also closed this if I wanted and open it here. There'll be no problem. But here, there should also be a white space. I could have also closed this and open it here too, or I could close this and still open it here and there, so that between this and this there is the white space, and between line I think 3 and that of the last line, that is the fourth line, 2, there is the white space. So when I click on it, there will be no problem too. The print method prints the cursor on the same line. So this is a way that we can remedy it. So when you are using the print method, you have to be very careful with. The next thing I want to talk about is, we have said that the print method prints and leaves the cursor on the same line, and the print line method prints and sends the cursor to or advances the cursor to the next line. But what if I still want to use the print method? I don't want to use the print line method, but I want the cursor to move to the next line. This is also possible. That is the beauty about this, and I can achieve this by using something very special. We call it escape characters. Now let me create another program or class and show you this. So I will call my next class. Of course, I'm using the print method, so let me call it print, and I'll add next line. So that's here. I just want to name it this way because it makes sense to me that I'm using the print method, and when it prints, it doesn't go to the next line. I want it to print and move to the next line, so that is why I'm calling it print next line. All right. So if I do it this way, all right, I'm gonna have this programming stop here. Let me get off this comment. Thanks Eclipse for giving me this. You're making my work very simple. So I'm going to take the code from the no space where there was no space here, and I'll press on Ctrl C and copy it and come here and paste it here. I'm not going to do any work here. I'll just press on Ctrl V and I have it pasted here. Now I'll run it again and see the problem. So there is a problem here. Okay, the method leaves whatsoever. So what I want to do is that I want to see this exactly, because here I have 4 lines of code. I call the print method 4 times, 1 2 3 4, but I saw it on the same line. But what I want to see now is that I want this to be on the first line, I want this to be on the second line, this on the third line, and that on the fourth line. We have said that the only way to achieve this is to use the print line method. But let me tell you, there is a way to achieve this with the print method as well. And to do that, I have to introduce in something that we call escape character. And there is one special escape character. We call it the new line character. And you have to insert it at where you want the cursor to move. So right after printing the last character, that is the D, the method, the word, I have to type on the backslash and add small n. So what this means is that print, I want you to print this, the print method, and the compiler gets here, it will not print this. It will see this as a special character. It will see this as a special instruction, and it will move the cursor down. That is exactly what it is going to do. So what we mean by an escape character, or let me say an escape sequence, is that you see as the name suggests, an escape sequence enables cursor to escape the sequential movements of the cursor's path. The cursor moves sequentially, horizontally. So the escape sequence allows the cursor to escape this sequential path and moves vertically. I'm telling the print method that, you print this, you get to this special character, it instructs you, hey, my friend, get down. and it will print this, leave the cursor. Then when you get here at the end too, I want you to get down again, and here too, when you get here, I want you to get down again. And of course this is the last line, so there is no need to tell it to get down. All right, so when I run this, I'm going to see the code as if I used println method here, although I used the print method because of this special character. So when I press on this, look at what I'm getting. Instead of getting it in one breath, now I'm getting it on different lines. I'm getting the print method, leaves the cursor on the same line, because it prints this, the print method, it gets to the special character, and the compiler understands the special character, that's the backslash and the n, and says, oh, so you can see that it is not printing the backslash and the n, it is interpreting it as a special character. So it takes it and then it moves to the next line, and it gets here, it takes it and it moves to the next line, and this is very beautiful. Now there are several types of escape sequences. This one that I've used is what we call the new line character, and what it does is that it inserts a new line, that is, it moves or advances the cursor to the next line. Of course we have others like let me try to give examples of them here. We have one that we call the backspace. If I put here the slash and B, it means that insert backspace, you know, instead of pressing on the backspace, it inserts backspace. If I put in slash and R, this is the carriage return. It means that return to you know, the beginning of the line on the current line, the carriage return. And we also have the T, and I love the T. I use the T a lot. The slash T, it means advance the cursor by a tap. That is one tap. When you press on the tab key, you see it moves the cursor. So what I'm essentially doing is that advance it by a tap on the horizontal line. So that is what it means here. Okay, so let me put a tab here and you see what will happen. You see, so it will print the print method, it will print this. So when it gets to the tab, it will move the character, it will give a wider space, just as when you press on the tab key, it advances the cursor. So when it gets here, it will advance the cursor, it will move the cursor by that space, you know. So let's look at it here. I'll run it and it will be on one line, but look at it, the print method, and it advances the cursor, moves it widely, because this is the tab key. If I add twice of it, it will move it twice, so the gap will widen. Look at it here if I run it. So you can see that here is you see twice, 1, 2, but here I just see just 1. I can add more as many as you want here, and it will move it 3 times. And there, well, that is getting a little bit creepy. 1, 2, 3, so 3 taps here, and you can see 1. So the escape sequence allows the cursor to escape its, you know, cursed sequential path or movement. So this is all for this lesson under the differences between the print and the print line method. And in summary, we are saying that the print and the print line method are just pre-written methods that are part of the Java API. The API is just like a dictionary. So the API 2 is short for application programming interface, and learning Java programming, learning the classes and the methods that are already in the Java API. Just as when you are learning English language, it is about learning the vocabulary in the dictionary. Just as when you are learning mathematics, it's about learning the formulas that you will need and understanding them. So we've met some pre-written classes and methods. We've made system, which is a pre-written class. We've made out, which is a pre-written object, and print line. So thank you, and we will meet in the next lesson.